these stories tonight. I'm not going to tell you any more stories. I'm just going to thank you for your prayers. And we had 900 some people praying for us in the field. It's amazing when we leave. You know, some people go, some people help support and send, and some people pray. We thank you, cherish those prayers. We really felt those prayers. So the question is, now, so what now? What now do we do? The first thing that we do is we pray. We need your prayers to continue. We need to pray for those new children of God, that they would continue to be fed, because they're babies, and they need to be fed spiritual milk. And so pray for the laborers in Paraguay, that they would have the endurance to continue the discipleship and grow those believers, and whether they're in the homes or whether they're coming to churches or wherever they are. Pray for them, please. I want to tell you about opportunities that are coming up. You know, when the Bible tells us go and make disciples of all nations, that means all nations means all people. As Aaron said, that doesn't mean going necessarily having to go to Paraguay. It could be your next door neighbor. It's the key word though is go. It isn't always come. You know, we're always focused on bringing people to us. But that's not what Jesus said. He said, go, wherever that is. And so that takes action on our part. So I want to encourage you to go. We have 3 opportunities this next year for going. The first one is it's in your bullet, or it's in your program. On July 5th to the 14th, there will be another E3 mission to Paraguay. Be doing much of the same things that we did this year. It's a joy to go back and work with these churches and to see the fruit grow. You know, it's wonderful to see people come to the Lord, but it's incredible to see their spiritual growth. So if we're going back year after year like Christ Lutheran has, it's amazing that they can see the growth within the churches. But there's a new opportunity too I want to talk to you about. That's Refugio Ministries. Refugio Ministries, I can't even say it. It's an organization that was started here in North America to help support and send people to South America. Started in Paraguay as our first Refugio. And so we want to start something with youth. And I want to talk to you just a couple minutes about a special opportunity there. But also then we want to start going to Argentina as well. There's another Refugio being built, a new Christian school being built in northern Argentina, in Rafaela. So we'll be having our first trip there. So, but I'm not going to take the time to talk too much about it. We're forming a new project called the James 127 Project. Right, and it's obviously in James 1:27, where it says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this. So simple. To visit orphans and widows in their affliction. So we have a great opportunity, and I want to bring up Chris Marshall from Kids Around the World and share that opportunity with you.
Okay, if I do this, can you hear me, or do I need to move this up, raise it? Okay, Rick. Yeah. Get to raise it back down. All right, how's that sound? Yeah, all right. Wow, what an honor it is to be here with you guys today. I just felt like I took a mission trip to Paraguay, and it was fascinating to hear your stories, hear your experiences. And I just have to say, Scott and Rick, for leading that. It was awesome. I mean, what an experience. I get to lead lots of mission trips to lots of different places, and I know the challenges, but I know from experience that those 2 guys and the other leaders, you know, it's like children when they do something that you're proud of, just knowing that you guys have taken to heart what you've learned and seen and brought it back here in such a great way. It's real fulfilling for them. So for me, just like I said, an honor to be here, to meet these guys, to hear the mission and the work, and then just to share a little bit about what we have coming up and some opportunities. But first I want to take a step back. I got Craig up there. I'm going to twinkle my nose when I want to shift the slide, I think. We'll see how we get this going here. But as the guy said, I'm Chris Marshall from Kids Around the World, Regional Vice President of our organization based out of Chicago, Illinois. But I live in beautiful San Clemente, just up the road here. We have an office on the West Coast here. And I'd like to share a little bit about just who we are as a ministry. And go ahead, next slide, Craig. I just wanted to share some of the facts that we were born out of. I can't read them here, but I can kind of see them. You know, 2.2 billion children in the world, and out of those 2 billion children, over a billion of them are at risk in poverty, and other situations. In that, there's over 2 million children that have been injured by war or permanently injured, and of those, many more have died. It's incredible to think about the plight of children all over the world, in Paraguay, South America, certainly in Africa and other places. Children are not regarded in places like third world countries like they are in America, and therefore children are at risk. And that's why it's such a blessing to have ministries like Refugio and others. Go to the next slide. And some people say out there, they say, well, why are you working with kids? You know, there's 2.2 billion children out there, and that represents one of the largest unreached people groups in the world. And when you think about that, you think, well, how many ministries are actually going to reach those children? And of the ministries in the world, only 10% actually minister to children. So we're in good company here with these relationships here. And it's well known and documented as you were in your mission that children are oftentimes easier to reach and evangelize because they're innocent, they're an open book, they have trust, they build trust right away. But I think the statistic that really hits us is that of all Christians in the world, 85% of us accepted Christ before the age of 14. How many of us here accepted Christ before the age of 14? And those that don't have their hand up, you're obviously lying. What a statistic. I had the opportunity just a few months ago to be in Togo, speaking at the Global 414 West Africa conference, and got to share exactly what it means to minister to children. And I won't go into all those details, but what a powerful opportunity. And certainly Refugio is just right in with God's heart on reaching children. You know, those statistics and others, other experiences around the world really led us to the ministry that we have. In 1994, communism had just fallen, and Rockford, Illinois, where we were born out of near Chicago, had an opportunity with their sister city in Bravary, Ukraine, to do a project with them. And Rockford, the group of businessmen decided, you know, we're going to go over to Bravary and we're going to build them a park. Kind of an odd thing, but Rockford is known for parks. So they went over there and they built them a park, which meant a playground and a soccer field. And they left home, they patted themselves on the back and said, great job. And a year later, the mayor of that town called back and said, you know, that park is pretty cool. I'd love another one of those. Can I order one? And the guy said, okay, well, you know, we did one great thing, and this is the next year. We're all Christians. How can we really use this to empower and lift up local Christians in the community? You're talking close Russia before, or Soviet Union, now it's just open, not a lot of Christians. So they said, okay, you know, we're going to go and build you another playground, Mayor, but this time we want to ship 15,000 Bibles. Mayor said, okay, Bible, we don't have those here, I think we'll do that. Okay, so well, if we send the Bibles, we want to come in, we want to share it into each school, go to each classroom and share what's in the Bible. And the mayor thought for a minute, he said, sure, that sounds okay. So, well, if we're going to share the Bible, we're going to give the Bibles. We also want to have evangelistic outreach at the end of our time there and share why we came, which is in the name of Jesus. And he thought for a minute, he said, well, are you still going to build me a playground? And we said, yes. He said, okay, you can do it. So an idea was born that first time that a playground can truly impact a community, lift up local Christians. I had a chance to go back to Ukraine just last year and asked the mayor, what was the impact of that first project? He said, you know, two things. First of all, it showed us that Christians can do something besides just tell us about Jesus, and actually have action, word, and deed, and that's really important. And because of that, we allowed the churches to be involved in the social programming of the city, which leads to a lot of other things, as you can imagine. The second thing is Paraguay didn't have the idea of community, which playgrounds created community, allowed a safe place for children to play, show love to kids. It showed the parents that these Christians love their children, which is an important testimony. So it had a big effect on the community. So with that model, we took our playgrounds all over the world, 50 countries, Cuba, Vietnam, China, and lots of others, to share the power of play, but really to lift up and empower local Christians. As we were traveling, we decided that there's a lot of Christians that need things. They need training and resources. So we started to provide resources and training for local Sunday school teachers, which we've trained 20,000 teachers all over the world. In fact, we're in Ghana even today, and Mexico City. Teams all over the world. In 2008, we saw that we're really reaching kids, but kids had other needs too. Food became a big issue with famines and war, natural disasters. So we started to ship food overseas to reach the need in their stomachs before we could evangelize them. So we started shipping food. As we were shipping all these things, one day we looked at our shipping container and we said, that container looks like a pretty nice livable space. Let's create a house out of it. So we started to ship the container and build a Jesus house, we call it. In fact, our first Jesus house in 2009 was in a small place probably you've all heard of called Karabolta, Kyrgyzstan, another former Soviet country. And we actually built this playground in the Central Park. Right next to it, we built a small building we call the Jesus House in a Muslim-controlled former communist country. And in that Jesus House, the church owned and operated it. Every time someone came to the playground, they were able to evangelize these kids legally, even though all religion was outlawed in the country. But because of the playground, this church had the legal opportunity to evangelize. The great part about that is there's a statue of Lenin hanging right over the park, but looking the other way. So it's a great picture for us. So really what we're all about is we're all about playgrounds. We're all about evangelizing children, training Sunday school teachers, our food program. But one of the neat things, go ahead Craig, next slide. One of the neat things we do is we take volunteers overseas to do this. I was just in the Dominican Republic just a few days ago, taking a team of 25, building a playground for a church in a community. And these volunteers, much like yourself, had experiences and great times ministering, evangelizing, being with children, developing relationships. Over the course of our 20 years almost, we've taken over 5,000 volunteers into 50 countries on 240 missions projects. There's our team right there. What a beautiful team. That was just a few days ago, so it's still fresh. But a great opportunity to take Americans overseas to see the work that God's doing overseas. And then the impact that I've read is with the children, the joy, the laughter. In 4 days, we start the playground, we finish it, we dedicate it, children playing on it. This particular one is in Ghana at a Christian school right on the edge of the sub-Sahara in Ghana, and it's incredible to see the joy of children that have never seen love displayed in that way before. And so it's so impactful for us to be a part of what God's doing all over the world for children, in the name of children. And we know God's heart for children. We know how God used children all over the world, all throughout the Bible. We take that and we implement that even today. We say, children aren't just the future, but they are today. Miriam, David, other examples in the Bible, children are used today. And with that in mind, we go forward, evangelizing, lifting up, supporting, resourcing local churches to reach their children. And so here we are today with your experience. And this experience you've had in Paraguay, we get to introduce a new word to kids around the world's jargon. It's Paraguay. Who would have thought? Maybe some of you have said that years ago. Who would have thought Paraguay? God would be calling me there. But truly, God is starting a great thing with Scott and Rick and others. And we have a project that's really exciting. One of the things that we've done over the years is taking teams like yourself overseas for an experience. When we started our food program, we thought that, instead of taking teams overseas because we're not hitting everyone in the church, let's bring our food program to a church. So whereas in this church, maybe 30 people could go overseas for a mission experience, Well, if we do a food program here, 1,000 people can be involved in an overseas experience without actually traveling. Package food, hear the story, gain the vision in the heart. Well, this project that we're going to propose actually does both. It allows an impact here locally for those that can't travel, and then it also allows those who like to travel and feel called to be overseas to see the impact. So go ahead to the next slide. And we call it a Hope Center. And basically, it is what it looks like. It's a playground, and it's a container that's built as a facility. Go ahead to the next slide there. The container inside can look like a lot of different things. That looks like a livable space. In a lot of places in Haiti and some of the tent cities, we're doing kind of livable spaces with bunks. Go to the next slide. But it's an incredible process. And basically what we do is we take a shipping container, 40 foot by 8 by 8, steel, corrugated steel, ugly as anything, and we drop it on a church property, just like this. And over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, we take it slow, we get the church involved, donating materials, donating time, donating treasures. That sound like time, treasures, and talents. Back up that next one there. Great. As you can imagine, through this process, the church gets involved. The church is able to help. Everyone is able to donate something, whether it's their time, treasure, or talent, something that they can give towards a project. You see in there the container is colorful. It's designed in a really neat way. And basically it stands on the property, to me, as a big question mark. What is this church doing with that container? Why would they paint that? Where are they sending it? And so it creates curiosity within the community. It leads to forms of evangelism and outreach just within your own community before it even goes overseas and does its real work. In fact, a lot of times the story comes back to us that people were walking by, looked back, saw the container, and had the asking question. Well, when they ask the question, they get the answer they don't want to hear, because then they're stuck to act. And typically they come and they help, and they get involved. You see on the truck too, gets put on a shipping truck, carried to port. That colorful container goes into a container ship. We call it an ark, as you can imagine, going on the water, floating off to sea. In fact, this particular project, they're leaving 2 days to Malawi for one of our Hope Centers in Zomba, Malawi. And they called this the Ark Project because it's physically going on the water. It's packed with ministry materials, packed with the gospel, packed with the living gospel, packed with word and deed, with a team going over. It's a great picture of how God uses us and how God uses characters in the Bible as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide there. And then once the project is on, or once the container's on the ground, then the team comes. 4 days, 5 days. It's building, it's hard work, it's evangelism, it's VBS, it's ministry, it's a city coming together for this incredible project, a dedication, and then it's a legacy that's left in a community for the local Christians to carry the torch for the years to come. It's an incredible opportunity that we have here to partner with Refugio. I can say it, Refugio, and Paraguay, and you guys to be able to take this idea and expand it to Refugio in Paraguay. Go ahead to the next slide. So over the years, and I'm sure Scott, Rick, and others have found out, the most important resource in any organization is you. That's why you're here. That's why you've gone overseas. You're the most important resource, and now there's an opportunity for you to act on the experience that you've had. There's many different ways to get involved in this project that we'll lay out for you. But the exciting thing is that God's put it all in your own hearts already to be here, to listen, to share stories, to go once to Paraguay. You know, I can't help myself, and I know time is a little over, but I can't help myself but share what I have to share to all of our volunteer teams as we wrap up our trip of debriefing and of ministry. And we share the story it's a kid's story. It's easy. It's something that we've all heard of. It's the story of Jesus calming the storm. And when I tell that story, I always like to start a little earlier. You know, the disciples were having this incredible time of ministry with Jesus. Jesus was healing, he was teaching, he was doing miracles with the disciples. The disciples were seeing this with their own eyes. Well, soon after that, the disciples and Jesus get in the boat and they go out to sea. And suddenly the storm comes. Jesus is down at the bottom of the boat, and the disciples freak out, right? Oh no, the storm is here, we are going to die. Jesus is right there in the boat. And Jesus comes back questioning them, saying, you have such little faith. And when I hear him say that, I hear him say that to me, Chris, you have such little faith. Weren't you with me 10 minutes ago, an hour ago, a day ago, when I was healing, when I was performing miracles, when I was doing things where your jaw was on the floor and I had to pick it up and say, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, didn't you see that? Didn't we connect at that time? And now, a day later, an hour later, whatever time or period it was, something hard comes along and suddenly you've forgotten. I look at that and I first think of myself and my first mission experience that I've been on many more after that, but I still remember that because I think, you guys were just in a spot where you were seeing Jesus doing miracles. You were in that moment. You experienced it. You saw the power of being in tune with God in His will, being able to experience that and use your gifts, right? You saw that. Now you're here. You're back here. And now life comes, a storm comes. Now what? What do you do now? Do you forget everything that's happened? Or do you remember, have faith, strengthen your faith, and move on to God? Faithful, knowing that He's faithful to continue His work in you. And I think that's the challenge that we have today is you guys have been given this gift. And I like to say a gift. And I think there's 30, 40 people that went to Paraguay. 40 people had an incredible gift. And the gift was an experience to be with God, to see His work, to see how He can use you. And since you've been given that gift, now you come back here. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take it, you're supposed to hide it, right? No, you're supposed to spread it. You're supposed to open it. You're supposed to find out what's in it and share it with others. And I think that's the joy I can imagine that the pastors in the room are saying, love it when our congregation goes on mission trips because the fire is still burning. Okay, so here we are today as a challenge. Don't let that fire go down. And if it does go a little lower or trials come, you have to go back to remember where you were and what God had done on that mountaintop experience. So that's my challenge today for you, just knowing where you're at today, excited to see the passion and hear everything that's going on, but just to know there is a next step. And the plan that we're laying out here today is an opportunity for you to not just do it yourself, but now being an ambassador for the work that you saw. Those 30, 40 people that went, maybe more on other trips, multiply yourself. Share it with everyone here. And don't leave out the hard things about the gospel. Throw that in there too. That's part of the testimony and part of the way that Christ wants to continue to grow the work that He has down there. So my challenge to you today is just keep that fire. Don't forget it. Because there's a next step that you can be involved in. And also your journey never stops with the mountaintop experience. It keeps going. And there's always more growth to be had. So I just appreciate you guys allowing me to share. I'm excited for the project that we have, that we've started, that will happen next year, potentially to be with you, to be able to minister with you. And I just thank you for your time and allowing me to be here. And remember, to continue to pray for the ministry that you were with in Paraguay and also for the children around the world that we're able to minister to. So thank you very much.
Great blessing. We had a common friend that introduced us to Chris Marshall and spending time with him in that ministry. It's incredible. I get to see immediately the impact that this can have on Refugio, community of Tobati. I believe it can have an impact on the country. And so this is a big project, and it has two parts of this project. It has the playground, and it has, we call the Women's Center of Hope. And the dynamic in Paraguay is that there's no work. It's a very poor country. And so typically what happens is the man leaves, and then after 9 months, the money stops because he's found someone else. And the woman probably goes across the border to Argentina, and she's working cleaning in homes because they can get work in Argentina. But then the kids are left with someone, or they're on the street. And that's why there's such a big need in Paraguay for children at risk. We want to get them before they get to the street. And the way we have to do that then is not only do we have to rescue those children, but we have to somehow break that economic cycle. And so the way we're doing that is we started modeling it in this campaign, when you saw the sewing machines, when you saw Romanita and others around those sewing machines and teaching the women how to sew. We want to start doing micro businesses that we've already started in Paraguay, and where they can earn just a little bit of money, and they do not need to leave the country and not need to leave their children, and their children won't go to the streets. And we want to be in those homes. And so what we want to do with Refugio in this container is build a container that's a center of hope. It's a women's center of hope, that we can take women and give them skills, whether it's cutting hair or reselling bread or sewing clothes, whatever it is. It doesn't take much, but it takes something. And so I'm asking you to be part of this project, this James 1:27 project. I'm asking you to join us. So we're going to be building the Center of Hope and the playground in that second week in Paraguay in July. So pray about it. Just pray. Whether God calls you to go on this trip, or whether God wants you to help us find a church to sponsor this container, for an evangelistic outreach to start here through that, as Chris described. We want to reach our community here, not just go, but go to our next door neighbors as well. So, on the back of the program, I'm going to ask Carol to come on up because we're going to pray and close this. Carol, can you come up while I share this? So you can see my contact information is on here, so you can email me, call me. Don't call me in the next 2 weeks because I'm on my way tomorrow night to Paraguay and Argentina to work at Refugio, the 2 Refugios there, and to minister to some of the churches and the pastors down there. So pray about it. Pray whether God would be calling you for this work, whether it would be here in a financial way, or whether it be helping to outfit these containers, or whether it be to going and building the youth, building the playground, and the adults building the Center of Hope. This picture here is very special to me because it represents something very special that happened this year. It was my highlight of the trip. It was my mountaintop experience because these 3 young girls were one of the first 3 young girls to be at Refugio. They were rescued from their homes under horrible situations. I didn't get to see this, but someone took a picture of this and I saw it. These 3 young girls not only were saved at Refugio, but God just grew in their hearts. And they're on an open dirt lot here, sharing the gospel with us, with our team, to the barrio Santa Teresa in Tobachi. That's a picture of restoration. So thank you. I apologize for going over tonight. I thank you for your support. I thank you in advance for praying for Paraguay, praying for the people, and praying if God is calling you in some fashion.